Well, welcome to Root Source. This is Bob Odell, and I am so pleased to be with Avi Lipkin today. How are you doing?
If you're here in my house in Kedar, it's a fantastic day.
And we are here in early January, just on the verge of the Trump inauguration.
God willing.
And so we can cover that as well.
There are a million people protesting in Washington, D.C. I just hope it just goes smoothly.
Yes, and by the time this comes out, we will know.
Yeah.
And we can praise God that
Trump is
that
the
we
man.
got through.
Trump is definitely the man. Yeah.
So the first thing I want to ask you about is that terrible event on December 23rd in the United Nations. What is your view on how that came about?
Well, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that this resolution was probably the last or one of the last resolutions of the old world, meaning the United Nations has been representing faithfully the old world, which is not Jewish, is not Christian, primarily pagan. In other words, you have to remember, out of 7 billion people on the face of the earth, 200 nations, the United Nations represents Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims, very nice people as people, but their systems are not systems that believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
And so Israel is being sacrificed on the altar of convenience, oil, mammon, political arrangements, pressure from the Arab world and others. And so this is something that it was very regrettable. But what Netanyahu said, and I agree with this 100%, there's going to be a change now very soon. Israel's status in the world is improving. Israel's, I don't want to say power, but Israel is now moving ahead so much in spite of BDS and in spite of so many obstacles. Our economy is moving ahead. We are moving ahead with gas and oil. We are building alliances which we never had before with Greece and Cyprus. Yes. Our relations with Egypt today are better than ever. The Egyptian military and the president of Egypt is closer to Israel than ever and since the peace agreement was made in 1981.
I mean, are you implying here that it might have been jealousy that is partly behind this move go ahead and...
Not jealousy. It's the lights have not gone on yet for the people at the United Nations. And I think that if our foreign ministry will wake up and do its job properly, we can have a much better sell of the Israeli position to the world nations. Until now, the Israeli foreign ministry, and Netanyahu has spoken about this many times, the Israeli foreign ministry basically is also an old school way of thinking, where all we do is apologize for things that we shouldn't be apologizing for. And so if we apologize, why shouldn't the whole world jump on us?
Yeah. Yeah. So Netanyahu said very shortly after the December 23rd resolution 2334 that there was no question in his mind that Obama was instigating it, not just accepting it.
Correct.
So you believe that?
Oh, absolutely. You have to remember something. On the one hand, as we approach the inauguration of President-elect Trump, we see a lame duck president, and his wife Michelle said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see that he's a silver fox and not a lame duck." Obama's not finished. Obama, even after he leaves the White House, has an agenda.
What do you think he's going to do?
Well, Obama has a world agenda, and you have to remember that former U.S. presidents like Jimmy Carter, like the Bushes, like Bill Clinton, these people don't fade away into the sunset. These people maintain a very strong activity. From what it seems, Obama has been given 4 very expensive villas, very expensive houses all over the world, which obviously he didn't earn with his president's salary. He is preparing his future now outside of the White House. And so of course he instigated. He's not finished. He's not retiring.
Well, it's been reported that Obama is going to work on making money. I mean, he can speak all over the world and make what, $100,000, $250,000,
$250,000.
And do that for a while.
Right.
There had been speculation that he might try to jump into the UN Secretary General position, but that has just been filled, and it's not going to come open again for another 5 years.
Right.
What are you thinking? Is
He's a very young man, Obama.
Yeah.
5 years from now, he's still a young man.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Resolution 2334, one of the things we talk about in Root Source is the importance of blessing Israel. We quote Genesis 12:3. We talk about, if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. If you curse Israel, you will be cursed.
Right.
Through Abraham. Do you think that Obama, John Kerry, Samantha Powers, do you think that they've brought a curse upon themselves? What do you think that Genesis 12:3 applies in this particular case on December 23rd?
I believe that there is a curse upon these people, not on the United States.
Yes. Okay.
The American people, and I'll say this to the camera, the American people are the greatest people on the face of the earth. I was born in the United States. I was raised in the United States. Consistently, in polls that are carried out in the U.S., 70% of the American people are declared Christians, go to church on Sunday. The support for Israel among American citizens is 70%. And in Congress, it's 80%.
Yeah.
Bipartisan. In spite of all the fighting between Republicans and Democrats, support for Israel is 80%. Israel marches in lockstep with the U.S. military. I think we're going to see a remarkable sunrise now as Trump enters the White House. And I think that all these people you mentioned made a big mistake personally. But God is too big for this. God is in control.
So essentially, you're saying that God understands the fact this was a lame duck president trying to make a last-minute move. He's not going to hold the entire nation accountable just for that.
Right. Correct.
Okay, that's reasonable. I'd like to ask you one more thing about this December 23rd event, and that is whether it could have happened earlier, or what Obama might have wanted to do. There were rumors circulating as early as 2014, then again in 2015, that Obama might want to see some resolution come to the UN Security Council that would even perhaps go all the way to Palestinian statehood. Do you believe that? But what happened was, thank God, a little bit more muted than that. It was a unfair, desperate criticism of Israel, but at least it didn't declare Palestinian statehood. Right. Do you have an opinion about Obama wanting to do something earlier? Do you feel like he tried, and what would have stopped him?
I think that Obama, President Obama, or shall I say in 2 days from now, former President Obama, is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. He's a very, very big piece, but he's just a piece. Samantha Powers, who until now is ambassador of the United States at the United Nations, wrote a position paper for President Clinton 20 years ago, in which she was calling for U.S. military intervention against Israel.
Yes.
And that the Palestinian state should be declared, and that the U.S. military should invade Israel and ramrod a Palestinian state down the throats of the Israelis on the borders of June the 5th, 1967. You have some very, very hateful people in the United Nations, which includes Secretary of State John Kerry, Samantha Powers, former president, we're with this time thing here, Obama, former President Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. There are a lot of people who are being flushed down the toilet with the inauguration of Trump. And so I'm very excited. I have to tell you, when Trump was elected, and I was there counting as the tide switched over to Trump, I almost cried. I was so happy. The Democrats were crying because they were sad. I was crying because I was happy.
I've heard a rabbi say that the Trump thing was a hidden miracle.
Right.
and he said that there's two ways that you identify a hidden miracle. I wonder if you agree with this. One is that you get a result which was completely unexpected based on everything that was pointing towards it.
Right.
And secondly, the benefactor of the miracle ends up being despised by many.
Right.
It happened.
You know, I have to tell you, and I don't know if it's one of your questions you're going to ask as we go on, but I've been living in Israel now almost 50 years.
Usually.
Yes, Menachem Begin became prime minister in 1977 against all odds. Nobody expected it. And everybody despised him. And Menachem Begin actually was the prime minister who made peace with Egypt.
True.
Everyone was saying horrible things about Begin.
True.
And he made peace with the first Arab nation. And it was a horrible peace for many years. And today it's still not a warm peace. We don't see millions of Egyptians coming to Israel as tourists. We don't see economic relations. There's still a hatred,
Yes.
which Islam permeates against Israel and the Jews. But Menachem Begin took Egypt out of the circle of confrontation states. Without Egypt, there cannot be a war with Israel, a real war. Netanyahu, Shamir, these prime ministers constantly in the elections, they're never going to form the government. They're never going to form the government. And they always form the government, almost always. So the media, like in the United States, the media in Israel is very slanted and very wrong. And as soon as the right-wing people win, because the media is left-wing, socialist,
sure.
liberal, so-called liberal, these people are despised. They have been attacking Netanyahu from day one, and they don't stop. They're thinking the more they attack him, the more he's going to get weakened and he's going to collapse. Personally, I think, even if Netanyahu goes for new elections pretty soon, because he may,
Yes.
I think he's going to win.
Yes. Yes.
Because the people, the Israeli people have in their heart and in their soul, they have the truth.
Yes.
And so I think that the minority socialists and social democrats that rule this country and its media, they are barking up the wrong tree.
We're going to cover a few other surprising events a little bit later, talk about the United Kingdom and Brexit. And when we come back in our next segment, I want to ask you about what just happened in the last couple of days, the Paris meetings and the UN Security Council that just happened yesterday. So we'll be back and hope you'll stay with us and continue our discussion with Avi Lipkin.